Andrew Scheer. So Andrew Scheer is who I selected as my first and only choice for my ballot for Conservative Party leader that we are now voting and will be finalized and read and notified tomorrow, which is Saturday the 27th. And I figured I'd just make a quick video explaining why I've chosen what I've chosen and a bit of a quick analysis of the Conservative Party. So this is the first time we've voted on a new leader since Harper was defeated in 2015, late 2015 now, and because we have an election coming up in 2019. That will be the election versus Trudeau. Everyone wants to talk about how Canadians have essentially, all Canadians like Trudeau. Wow, Canada's so fucked up, blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of Canadians were punked by Trudeau. I think a lot of Canadians did not even vote Trudeau because they did not like his father. They hated his father with a passion. So let's go through this. Before I talk specifically on why Andrew Scheer, I want to talk about the party specifically and why their analysis is just so fucked up and they're behind the curve. They're not thinking with a razor edge. A lot like the Republican Party or thinking ahead. They're still using the old rhetoric that works with old people. Anyways, I watched the entire Conservative Party debate, and there was basically three things that were being repeated and nailed in, and it was cancer. It was fucking cancer, because it was the stupidest shit I've ever seen. Basically, there was, only I can beat Trudeau. No, only I can beat Trudeau. No, only I can beat Trudeau. And then the second thing was, only I can win Quebec. No, only I can win Quebec. No, I'm from Quebec. I can win Quebec and have a shitty French accent. I can definitely win Quebec. And then the third thing was economy, economy. See, the problem is, let's just get the obvious out of the way. You're not going to win Quebec. And I know I talked about assertions versus questions, but I mean, oh my god. There is a chance you're going to win Quebec. I'll say that as a hashtag disclaimer. And when I assert, I'm asserting as political analysis that just know, there's no fucking snowball chance in hell. It's not exactly like California flipping Republican, but it's pretty close to that. I don't think the odds play it out. You're probably going to get 5 to 10 seats. So why the fuck are you making this as an argument that only I can win Quebec? I don't even give a shit if you're from Quebec, because half the time that doesn't work. It's identity politics again. Stéphane Dion, Liberal Party, 2008, I believe. Didn't win Quebec. Wow, shocker. He's from there. Didn't win Quebec. It's not about being from Quebec. It's about being big government socialists. That's what wins Quebec. So, and none of you are that. With your economic policy, none of you are that. So you're probably not going to win Quebec at all. In fact, it really is going to be up to Justin Trudeau to see if he can retain Quebec. Because I have a feeling they're probably going to go back to NDP this time around, or potentially go back to Quebec, Bloc Québécois. For all we know, they will not give a shit. They're frankly a swing state that makes no fucking sense. So you might as well not even worry about pandering to them and just say, hey, this is our platform. We're about the economy, and get your 5 to 10 ridings that you might campaign for in Quebec and call it a day. That's what I think you should do. And focus on other places where I think you can win, like, for example, Maritimes, Newfoundland. I know it's only nine seats or so, but it's 9 more seats. It's about the same amount as you're going to get in Quebec. Only this time around is you're actually going to be able to win them. And that actually might sound insane to anyone who knows anything about Canadian politics, because the Maritimes are very liberal, like technical liberal. The difference is they're not progressive. And that's why I think you can really hammer in a lot of the, hey, we're not going to put M103 on the table. We're going to kill Bill C-16, which is illiberal. We're going to kill all these illiberal crap. I have tried to talk with as many Maritimers and people across the country as I can, and from what I understand is they're not happy with Trudeau because they thought he was going to be his father, and he is in fact worse than his father. So that's why they hate him. And I don't think you're going to have a unanimous liberal sweep of the Maritimes this time around, and therefore is an opportunity to pick up some seats, maybe the majority. What about searching for more seats in Toronto? That's a big one too. Search for more seats in Toronto. Search for more seats in BC. Search for more seats that have gone liberal in the Canadian Western cities. That's what you should be searching for. You don't need to win Quebec. Quebec is not the entire country. Stop focusing on Quebec. Focus on the rest of Canada. Moving on to Trudeau. I'm sorry, but Trudeau is incompetent and not a threat. He just isn't. You don't have to worry about beating Trudeau. Almost whoever we put on the stand has a good chance at beating Trudeau because, for one, when he's off the cuff in debates, he sounds like a complete moron. The only time he sounds any good is when he's on script. Even when he's kind of like, he has this kind of a way of being like wishy-washy, stupid language, like, oh my god, oh, I'm so sorry, oh, hi, how are you, oh, yeah, shake your hand, woohoo, selfies, like, that's what he's good at. I could probably go on forever explaining how Justin Trudeau's a complete moron in speaking, but it's probably best if I just show examples to prove my point.
Also a transgender advocate, and I am extremely happy that C-16 looks like it's going to pass. So my question to you is, will you do your best to ensure that trans women are put in prison, or prison more appropriate to their gender identity?
The answer is yes. I will ensure that. I mean, this is a great example of the value of having these community meetings like this in these town halls, because I'll admit I consider myself to be a fairly strong advocate for LGBTQ2 issues and fairly...
Please finish the following sentence. If elected, my first full day as Prime Minister, I would...
Why are your deficits good and their deficits bad?
Well, deficits are a way of measuring the kind of growth and the kind of success that a government is actually able to create. We're going to put out a properly costed platform once we've announced all our promises. And if you want to tabulate them, you can go on our website and do that. I'm more focused on actually talking about what we're going to do right away for Canadians than sitting there with a calculator, which... you guys can do.
Because it's only a couple of hours after something has happened that clearly was not an accident in Boston. People have died, many people are injured. You're the Canadian Prime Minister. What do you do?
First thing, you offer support and sympathy and condolences, and can we send down EMTs but there is no question that this happened because there is someone who feels completely excluded, completely at war with innocence, at war with a society. And we're keeping our borders safe and monitoring the kinds of
Speaker, you see what happens when someone goes off script.
Now, I tried to pick several clips that kind of showcase different situations. I chose town halls where he was presented questions that he believes in, and he's still stuttering. I know I do that a lot, but not as much as Justin Trudeau. And I'm not the fucking Prime Minister. I'm just some 20-year-old kid from Western Canada that sometimes trumbles up their words every now and then. And yeah, I tried to pick all different kinds of, ones where he's in friendly questions with town halls, not aggressive questions, everything to just base soft pitch interviews and a little bit more confrontational areas, so you get a good rounded picture of, yes, he does sound like a fucking moron, and also clips that you probably haven't seen before too, because there's a lot of the famous clips going around. But I just look at it like you saying, we must beat Trudeau, otherwise the debt will blah 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 bubble out of control. This is old people rhetoric, and you're just listening to internet hate comments. When you're treating him like he's the biggest thing standing in the way, you're treating him like he's the big villain of the TV show or the movie, and you're kind of validating him as a threat. And that's the problem, is you're treating him like he's actually worth something when you can just dismiss him as, what a moron, what a bumbling idiot. Here's our platform, we're fucking awesome. You don't really need to attack Trudeau too much, because he kind of attacks himself with his own policies and his own stupidity. Like I said before, we can afford to shop for a good candidate. That's what I genuinely believe. We don't need to worry about somebody who can win Quebec. We don't need to worry about somebody who can win the moderates, even because I think the moderates can be swayed by a lot of the candidates we do have on stage. And therefore, I think we can pick somebody who actually is a little bit more social conservative rather than just the economy, and I'm a good winnable candidate that's agreeable with everybody, and compromise. We can stick to some of our principles that we want to see put in place in Canada, because Justin Trudeau is such a terrible fucking PM. There is more to the economy, like actual social issues. This is what the alt-right really has down pat. This is why they're growing, is people are really, like, especially young people, young guys, young girls. I'm not trying to say that the alt-right is good or the way forward long term, but you have to understand this is what the electorate is thinking, and you have to win the electorate. That's what I'm trying to say this. I'm trying to say this in a power politics type way. All right, so we're here on andrewscheer.com. First thing you can tell, he totally looks like a dork. I'll completely admit that. But the reality is we're going up against a complete retard, which is Justin Trudeau, so I don't think it matters too much. Andrew will unify Conservatives to defeat Trudeau in 2019. Again, another Trudeau comment. I do think this is more so his campaign manager, whatever, decided to put this up, because this is something that he's really seemed to pound hard, is I want to focus on running a positive campaign rather than an anti-Trudeau campaign. If that's what he says, then that's more important as far as I'm concerned. Let's go through his actual policies. So, tax savings on home and energy. This is very important that it's number one. Tax savings on home and energy. The reason being this is really important is because this is a huge fucking problem. And this is a big reason for moderates to vote Tory. When the economy is fucked, they tend to vote Tory because they are the economics party. I think what you really need is just to fix the energy bill not being insanely high from Kathleen Wynne's terrible running as energy minister. She has fucked this up royally. I've talked to Canadians in Ontario and, rural Ontario. Their bills are so fucking high for energy. There's a clip of a woman who is working 80 hours, single mom working 80 hours, which is just terrible situation. She's disabled, so she can't really get another job for the most part. She's working 80 hours at an employer she absolutely loves, who is very understanding. She has, worked hard, saved up for a home, and now on the verge of losing her home because she cannot afford her energy bills because they've gone up to $1,000 a month. This is ridiculous. This is insane. And Trudeau just laps this off like a retard. Like, oh, I'm so sorry, diversity, energy, blah, blah, blah. No. You need to sell it as a vision because this is your fucking green energy policy that has fucked this up royally, and you need to answer for this shit, Trudeau. And so that's why this tax savings on home and energy is going to win a lot of people over, as far as I'm concerned. It's a really smart policy to have as a number one policy. A lot of rural Ontarians, I've talked to rural Ontarians. I've heard that they've gone back to simply going back to wood burning. They don't even use the gas at all. They are straight up wood burning if they can in wood stoves. So that's what they're literally going back to the 19th century. Okay? That's how bad this energy policy is. If they can do it, they're going back to 1935. Andrew Scheer's plan to rid Canada of foreign oil. This is something that I really want seeing done. This is very important, because ultimately an energy sufficient Canada can really, really hurt the Saudis. Not only that, I think it can actually hurt the Saudis completely in North America, because if you have an energy independent Canada that's now no longer tied to the Saudi monkey back, suddenly you now open the door to start exporting your oil to America, and America to become sufficient on Canadian oil rather than Saudi oil, which is really, this is a huge thing for the Saudi in terms of power politics long term. America getting off the Saudi oil back is huge. Okay, this is going to change the game for decades to come, potentially 100 years. It's their it's literally there in foreign influence why this never happens. That and the useful idiot eco activists. Speaker Scheer will defend democracy. I kind of looked into this. I didn't really understand what the hell it was all about that much. It's just him saying that he'll be fair to all MPs, not just towing the line, like the Liberals seem to be doing, but also for MPs to have their own voice and for them to say things that go against the party line and have disagreements, which is kind of important. Taking the fight to ISIS, yes, 100%, but we won't go into that because that's a huge tangent. That's another video for another topic. Against M103, that's a very important one. So, obviously, you want to see these Bill C-16s, these M103s, these Bill 89s gone, get rid of. Vote Tory. That's your only solution. The Libs have the House. You can't do much about it. So you have to just vote against them because they're the ones pushing this crap. Common sense gone on firearms. Now, when he says common sense, he doesn't actually mean more restrictions. He actually means reducing restrictions, as far as I can tell. I would imagine Maxime Bernier would be better on this policy, I would have to say. But very important thing is he actually has shot, he has hunted with firearm owners. That is important, I do think, in terms of constructing a firearm policy. As far as I'm concerned, I would trust that he would repeal some legislation that is completely retarded. Because I do think there is retarded legislation on firearms, as far as I'm concerned. Support for parents of independent school children and homeschoolers. So I do kind of like that to some extent, because it's giving us alternatives to the monopoly the government school system has on children, and I think it is really bad. I think the government school system they have good teachers, but they have a lot of ideological bias, and that's the problem. More choice for new parents. So obviously, more social programs for families, which is actually really important in terms of curbing welfare and immigration primarily, because you have to give incentive to families to raise the next generation so that your next generation is not replaced by immigrants to keep up these big bloated social programs that you're just never going to get rid of. People are not going to vote away. They want to keep their social programs until they fucking die. And they can't think long term. Scrap the carbon tax. That's pretty obvious. It needs to go. It's just nothing but economy killer. The argument for the carbon tax that I hear all the time is that oh, but it's carbon offset, so it'll incentivize the government collects tax and then offsets what the tax is, and then incentivize people to go with green energy. And it's like, no, because you need to change the logistical system of energy in order to replace carbon-based energy fuels. That's what it is. That's what it is. Okay. No, it's not going to work like that. It's like selling the atmosphere, I guess, or putting a price on the atmosphere. It's dumb. It's not going to work. As far as I'm concerned, you need to change the logistical structure. You need to get the Saudi oil monkey off your back, which is right here. You have to get the Saudi oil monkey off your back first before you even think about clean energy, as far as I'm concerned. Balance the budget in 2 years. Slash a whole bunch of stupid spending. For example, sending $1 billion in aid, spending $1 billion on refugees, spending $1 billion on clean energy in third world countries. Like, what the fuck is this shit? It's horseshit. It needs to stop. It's going to... Every you vote for any Tory, and this is their plan. So it's just there to say that, hey, this is one of my talking points. I am going to stop Trudeau's out-of-control spending. Every Tory is on this path. They are absolutely not going to... This is every Tory's plan, so it's not a huge one specifically to Andrew Scheer. It's just specific to the Conservative Party. Adding property rights to the Charter. This is actually not what you think it is. It's, as far as I could read, it's not what it seems. It's not about, home defense and, stuff like that. Things like that. Strengthening. If somebody tries to steal your property, you will not get arrested for essentially capturing the salient and holding him holding him in quotations hostage, or basically detaining him and with a box cutter. Okay, they detained a guy in Toronto with a box cutter and roped him up, and they were charged with kidnapping when they called the police to pick the assailant up. Okay, it's property rights in Canada are out of control in that respect, but this is not what it seems. This is not about that. What it really is about better compensation when they build a highway through your fucking farmland, or they build a airport and they're removing your fucking house. They're bulldozing your house. It's just more compensation or some shit like that. So, sorry, I forgot about all other policies that he has behind here, but there's another really important one that I wanted to actually mention. Prioritizing real refugees, that's good, obviously. Defend democracy again. We looked through that. Protect and develop the forest industry, that's good, because Greenpeace are a cancer. They are a cancer. They need to shut the fuck up. I'm sorry, but they need to go the fuck home. They're stupid. We've gone through all that. We've gone through that. Standing with Ukraine, Poland, and other Eastern European allies. Enhances Canada's relationship with India and other Asian democracies. Yes, I agree with that. Supporting Israel. Yes, agree with that. This is another really important one. No free speech on campus means no federal grants. That's going to be really important. If you want to vote for against what I see is probably the most important and pertinent issue in Canada, which is political correctness, as far as I'm concerned. Think about this hypothetical, which is not really much of a hypothetical. They have the Bill C-16, right? And they are trying to incorporate pedosexual under the LGBT identities. Imagine not being able to criticize being jailed or human rights for saying pedosexual is horseshit. You need to go to jail for if you commit any illegal action on a child. That is a horseshit identity. It's a mental disability. That's a mental disease that is detrimental to society. You cannot be around children if you are a quote-unquote pedosexual, which is horseshit. You're just a pedophile. Imagine being brought in front of the human tribunal for that shit. Imagine being potentially jailed or fined a $10,000 fine for simply being opposed to fucking pedophiles. Imagine that. Imagine that. That for me, that's the point of, like, you have to have, every Canadian has to have some sense of civil disobedience at that point. As far as I'm concerned, I know there's lots of guys that would just be, they would be, I would be at the point where I'm like, okay, we got to start, like, some sort of resistance. If we're not heard for that, if we cannot stop that, if we cannot go onto the street and say, essentially beat the shit up out of a pedophile, that if that's illegal, if it's illegal to beat the shit out of a pedophile that's walking around with a 9-year-old, no, that I will fight the police for that. I will fight the police for that. That's an unjust law. That law can never be passed. And I'm very concerned about that law becoming reality once we get to, into my 60s. Once we get into the point where I'm the old pops, where I just don't understand progressivism, daddy-o. And we get into that point where progressivism has won the tranny rights. They've already won the gay rights. There's no going back on gay rights. When have we gotten to the point where progressivism has gone too fucking far? That's important. This is important. This is, like, my number one issue. And nobody else has any type of plan. The only thing I know about is there's maybe 2 candidates that have mentioned this. And as far as I can tell, they don't have any real plan to this. Free speech begins on the campuses, and this is actually a very useful plan that Donald Trump has threatened Berkeley with, that everyone agrees. No free speech on campus means no federal grants. Perfect. That is the right policy today that will kill them, cripple them, and everyone can agree with, and everyone can get behind with. This is a very diverse platform that I agree with almost all of these. That's why I said we can go shopping for the candidate we want. This is a candidate I do want, even if I think he looks like a retard. He kind of sounds like a retard, and he's definitely not a leader. He's just a candidate. But these are the policies I want. No, he has the end corporate welfare on his policies too with Maxine. So actually, I would rather Scheer win and Maxine work with him. That's what I want to see, actually. Because just because they're contenders doesn't mean they can't work together in the same party. Unlike Trump and Jeb. Trump and Jeb will never work together. And there's a good thing. It's a good thing that Trump and Jeb will never work together. So anyways, yeah, you have all these policies, respect for parents. Like, again, that's going to go against that Bill 89. That's a very important thing we need to oppose, because that's getting into Brave New World shit. That really is getting into Brave New World shit, the Bill 89 in Ontario. Again, that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, this political analysis. I have chosen Andrew Scheer for my first choice on my ballot. Obviously, I don't think he's perfect. He's not a fucking leader. He looks like a dork. Like, God, he honestly, he looks kind of like a Munchkin. To some extent, like, from, like, I don't know, he just has a dorky look to him. But I would rather an somewhat articulate dork than Maxime Bernier with the wrong policies, with bad articulation. And anyone else, like, he has the right policies. I'm voting for a candidate, not a leader. I'm voting for policies, not a leader. That's what it really comes down to. And so I hope you've enjoyed this analysis. We will see what happens, tomorrow.